Welcome to RankLens. Today, we count down the top 10 bloodiest battles in military history. History's bloodiest battles were grinding wars of attrition, where armies sacrificed millions in search of victory, and entire nations mobilized their full strength. Some of these clashes lasted months, others mere weeks, but each one reshaped the course of human history. Today we're counting down the 10 most lethal battles ever recorded. We're going from bloodiest to most brutal, measuring each by total casualties. The entry at the top might surprise you. Let's begin. At number 10, the Battle of Kiev in 1941. A staggering 701,000 casualties. When Nazi Germany invaded the Soviet Union in June 1941, Operation Barbarossa set the stage for history's deadliest theater. The Battle of Kiev wasn't just one clash, it was an encirclement, a trap. German forces surrounded Soviet defenses around the city, cutting off escape routes and forcing a catastrophic stand. Over 2 months, from August to September, the Nazis squeezed the pocket tighter and tighter. Hundreds of thousands of Soviet soldiers and civilians paid the price. It was the largest encirclement of the entire war, a brutal baptism of the conflict between Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union that would consume millions more before it ended. At number 9, the Battle of Verdun in 1960, nearly 1 million casualties, 976,000. This wasn't a battle of conquest, it was a battle of attrition. German General Erich von Falkenhayn wanted to bleed the French army white, to kill so many soldiers that France would have no choice but to surrender. For 10 brutal months, from February to December 1916, the Western Front at Verdun became an industrial slaughterhouse. The Germans opened with an apocalyptic artillery barrage, over 7,000 Fialone shells in the first week alone. French and German soldiers clawed at each other across muddy craters. Neither side gained much ground. The French held barely. But at Verdun, holding meant dying. 976,000 men lost to gain nothing. At number 8, Operation Bagration in 1944. 1.1 million casualties. 2 years into the German invasion of the Soviet Union, the Soviets were ready to strike back, and strike back hard. Operation Bagration was the Soviet Army's massive counteroffensive, a coordinated assault across Belarus to expel Nazi forces from Soviet territory. Named after a Russian war hero, Bagration was relentless. Soviet forces attacked along a 600-mile front, using speed, coordination, and overwhelming numbers. The Germans, weakened and stretched thin after years of fighting on the Eastern Front, couldn't hold. In just a few months, the Soviets liberated Belarus and pushed deep into Poland. Operation Bagration inflicted 1.1 million casualties, the largest Soviet offensive of the war, and a hammer blow to Nazi Germany's grip on Eastern Europe. At number 7, the Battle of the Somme in 1916. 1.3 million casualties. The Somme is synonymous with futility. The British and French attacked the German trenches along the Somme River in northern France, hoping to break through and end the grinding stalemate of the Western Front. They didn't. What they got instead was one of history's deadliest days, July 1st, 1916. The British Army suffered nearly 6,000 casualties in a single day. 60,000. Machine gun fire mowed down soldiers advancing in waves. Artillery guns commanded the field. For 5 months, British, French, and German forces fought and died. When it ended in November, 1.3 million men had fallen. The Somme captured nothing but anguish. At number 6, the Battle of Berlin in 1945. 1.3 million casualties. As World War II drew to a close, the Soviet army was racing westward into Germany itself. Berlin, the Nazi capital, lay ahead, and the Soviets were determined to take it and plant their flag on Hitler's ruins. The battle for Berlin was urban warfare at its most savage. Street by street, block by block, Soviet troops fought German defenders and Hitler youth, often hand to hand. Millions of German civilians were caught in the crossfire. Artillery pounded the city to rubble. Snipers ruled from the ruins. For 2 weeks, in April and May 1945, Berlin became a hellscape. When it ended, over 1.3 million soldiers and civilians had perished, the last major battle of World War II in Europe. At number 5, the German Spring Offensive in 1918. 1.5 million casualties. By spring 1918, World War I was reaching its climax. Germany, weakened but desperate, threw everything it had left into one final, massive offensive. The goal was simple: crush the Allies and force a German victory before American troops could arrive in overwhelming numbers. The Spring Offensive was a series of coordinated attacks, massive, coordinated pushes on the Western Front. For a moment, it seemed to work. German forces broke through Allied lines and advanced miles. But the breakthrough was temporary. Supply lines stretched thin, reserves ran out, the Allies held, regrouped, and pushed back. In 1.5 million casualties, Germany had spent its last strength. The Spring Offensive failed and opened the door to the Allies' final victory. At number 4, the Battle of Moscow, 1941 to 1942. 1.8 million casualties. Operation Barbarossa was Nazi Germany's invasion of the Soviet Union, the largest military invasion in history. Moscow was the prize. If Germany could capture the Soviet capital, the theory went, the entire Soviet state would collapse. Hitler was confident. He wasn't prepared for what came next. The Red Army defended Moscow with ferocity. Soviet forces counterattacked in the brutal Russian winter when temperatures plummeted and snow choked the roads. German soldiers, equipped for a quick summer victory, froze. Mechanized equipment seized in the cold. Supply lines broke. The Nazis, for the first time, faced defeat. The Battle of Moscow lasted from October 1941 through January 1942. 4 icy months that cost 1.8 million casualties and shattered Nazi Germany's myth of invincibility. At number 3, the 100 Days Offensive in 1918. 1.9 million casualties. By August 1918, Germany was finished, though it didn't yet know it. The Central Powers were out of men, out of morale, out of time. The Allies launched the 100 Days Offensive, a coordinated assault by British, French, Canadian, and American forces against a German army that was finally cracking. The offensive wasn't about conquest, it was about pursuit. The Allies broke German defensive lines and poured through the gaps. For 100 days, from August through November, the Allies drove relentlessly forward, pushing Germany back toward its borders. The Germans, unable to mount a coherent defense, surrendered. In those 100 days, 1.9 million soldiers fell across all sides. But the cost bought peace. The 100 Days Offensive ended the First World War. At number 2, the Battle of Stalingrad, 1942 to 1943. 2 million casualties. Stalingrad wasn't a strategic city, it was the Soviet dictator's namesake. But Hitler wanted it destroyed, and Stalin wouldn't let it fall. Their obsession with one city triggered history's longest urban battle. German forces invaded the Soviet Union and pushed deep. In the summer of 1942, they reached Stalingrad on the Volga River. The Nazis expected a quick capture. Soviet defenders had other plans. Street by street, house by house, Soviet troops resisted with suicidal determination. Snipers ruled the rubble. Machine guns commanded every corner. Neither side gave ground without fighting for it. In November 1942, the Soviets counterattacked, encircling the German Sixth Army. Trapped, the Germans suffered a catastrophic defeat. Stalingrad lasted from August 1942 through February 1943, 6 months that caused 2 million casualties and became the turning point on the Eastern Front. At number 1, the Brusilov Offensive in 1916, 2.3 million casualties, the deadliest battle in human history. In 1916, the Eastern Front of World War I was a stalemate. Russia's military was suffering from poor leadership, bad strategy, and inadequate supplies. But General Alexei Brusilov believed he could break through, and he had an idea. Instead of one concentrated attack, Brusilov planned multiple offensives along a huge stretch of front, all at once. The goal was to force the Germans and Austro-Hungarians to spread their forces too thin. It worked. Initially, the Russians broke through in multiple places. Hundreds of thousands of Austro-Hungarian soldiers were captured. The Russians advanced miles, but the cost was staggering. Russia's military was drained, supplies collapsed, morale shattered. The Brusilov Offensive killed 2.3 million soldiers and broke the Russian army, directly contributing to the Russian Revolution and the end of the Romanov dynasty. These 10 battles shaped the world we live in. The First World War, with battles like Verdun, the Somme, and Brusilov, killed an entire generation and redrew the map of Europe. The Second World War, Stalingrad, Berlin, Moscow, turned ideology into apocalypse. But the bigger lesson is this: attrition warfare doesn't work. Bleeding an enemy white costs your side just as much blood. Modern militaries study these battles not to repeat them, but to transcend them. Technology, logistics, and strategy have evolved precisely because we learned that throwing millions of bodies at a problem is catastrophe, not victory. These battles remind us war's true cost isn't territory or flags, it's human life. And that's the top 10 bloodiest battles in military history. If you enjoyed this countdown, subscribe to RankLens for more.